Hey everyone, good to see you. Hey, listen, today for these notes, I want you to have out a green, a red, a yellow highlighter, and a blue highlighter. These are the only things we'll be using for these notes, and of course your pencil too. So let's get started. And what we're doing today is focusing, understanding some vocabulary terms. All right, first thing we're going to do is have your green out, and we're going to talk about those bubbles that we constantly do. And those bubbles, remember, are called terms. And we're going to have different types. One of the types we're going to have is a variable term. And what does that mean? Is anytime I have a bubble with a letter in it, right? And then we have a constant term, and again, that's a bubble like this, and we're going to put the constant, a blue highlighter. And we're going to do one other thing, which is our coefficient, and I'm going to do this in red because it comes inside a bubble. It's next to a variable. It's the number next to the variable, and we're going to point an arrow to that number. So let's take a look at this expression up here, and let's see which ones those are. First thing I want to do is just to get in the habit of creating our terms, our bubbles, which are separated by addition or subtraction. So we just come at the end of the term all the way forward. And we've been doing this for a while, so get this done as quick as you can. See how I'm just making each of our terms. And now we're going to focus on the vocabulary. So a variable term, the term that has a letter. And so that would be this one here, the 9x. And the x shows up here. Not in this one, there's no letter in that term. And I have one here. And then shift off to the blue, the constant, which means just a number. Let's write that up here. A constant is just a number. It can actually be written in pencil if you want. And we're going to highlight that in blue. So I've got a -2, and an 8, and a 10. So we're noticing the difference between these. But now, what exactly are the coefficients? Do you see those? Well, find the variable, the letter, and it's the number next to that variable, actually right in front of it, and we're going to point to it with an arrow like this. And is there a number in front of that x? Yes. Let's bring out our green and put an invisible 1 in front of this. We don't actually show it, remember, but when I have a letter, there always is a number there, just invisible, and it's a 1. And so we're going to put that green 1 in there and draw a red arrow going to it. So it looks like this. So this is what you should have on your paper. Let me pull out, and now we're going to go ahead, and we're just going to practice doing this on this worksheet. And this is all we have today. I'm going to do the first 5 together with you, and then you're going to do the last 5 on your own. And they'll need a volunteer who feels fairly comfortable with their answers that you will share them with the class. So let's focus in on these first 3 here. And let's go ahead and draw our bubbles, okay? So we're drawing our terms separated by addition and subtraction. I'm going to go ahead and do the first 3 terms. So you do this too, your first 3 problems, and then we'll go and lay these all out. And that should be done with your green. I'll give you a minute to catch up. Looks like this. I'm going to extend out a little bit so I can see those notes again with colors. There we go. So if it has a letter, a variable term, I do it in yellow. So in these first 3 problems, let's go ahead and anything that had a letter in it, we're going to do yellow. And anything that didn't have a letter, we're going to do in blue. And those are constants. So constant's just a number. And so I'm just color coding this so I know what they are. And I'm going to have to get comfortable with recognizing these terms. And then the last one is a little tricky. It's that arrow and a number next to the letter, right? So what numbers am I going to be pointing to? And in this first problem, let's go find the letters. Those are in yellow. There's our variable term, and it's the 8 that I'm pointing to. And in this one, it's the 2, and those are called coefficient. I'd like it if you'd say that number out loud, that word out loud, coefficient. It's a little bit of a weird word. And what about this x? Here, there's no number there. Someone say it out loud. Come on. That's right. Thank you. Someone said it. I heard it. A 1. And so we put a 1 there. It's invisible, but we know that it does have a 1. And so we go to these last down here. There's a negative 19. There's a 2. And there's a 6. So now let's go ahead and write on here, fill in our data. So I'm going now into pencil. What are the variable terms? Well, this bubble has an 8a. And I'm not adding or subtracting. I'm just saying out loud what they are. And there's also a 2a. In this problem, there's an x. I'm not going to put the number in front of it. It's invisible. And there's a negative 3x. And down here, I've got a negative 19a. Notice I have different letters in here. Did anyone catch that? What the heck is that b doing out there? It's still a variable term because it has a letter. Raise this up a little bit. And then a 6a. Like that. And now let's step out a little further and do our constant terms, which are just the blue bubbles. A constant is just a number. So this one had a negative 3. This one had 2 constants, a negative 12 and a 22. And this one had a negative 10. And now, last of all, we're going to say what our coefficients were. The number in front of the variable. So it had an 8 and a 2. 8 is a coefficient, 2 is a coefficient. That invisible 1, I'm going to call it because there was 1, and a negative 3. And in this problem, we had 3 coefficients. We had a negative 19, and a 2, and a 6. So those of you who clearly get this, just go ahead. This is due by the end of the period. Fill this out with all your colors. We're going to do 2 more together, and then I need someone who will put up to the document camera all the other answers so people can check. And then, if you catch a mistake, say it out loud. I'm going to give you 5 extra credit points for any mistakes that you catch. And we know we make plenty of them. I might have made a mistake already, right? So be looking for those. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 more. I'm going to just jump in and do these last 2. And I'm going to start off with drawing the term, the bubble, the terms, right? Separated by addition and subtraction. See how I've drawn all of those? And then I get used to my vocabulary. In yellow, if it had a letter, this one, almost all of them on that one. This one, and this one, just 2 in that one. And then go into blue with your constants. And we're not always going to use these color, but this worksheet we will, just to make sure that we're clear in our minds what these things are. Okay, so that's 4 and 5. And let's go out here. And now let's drop these things inside where they belong. Okay, my variable terms, the ones with the letters. So in this one, I got a 15m and an n, and I have a negative 7m. Those are the terms. In this one, I had an xy. It was 1xy, but I'm not showing it. That 1 is invisible, and I had a negative 2xy. And now I'm going to list my constant term, or just the number. This one only had one of them, a 9, and this one had 2, had a negative 12 and a 9. And now, make sure you go in red and identify the number in front of the variable. So it's this one. There had that invisible number. And here. And so we'll write these in here. So this one had 3 of them. A 15, an invisible 1, and a negative 7. And this one had, notice this xy, it does have a number in front of it, and those are hard to see because they're invisible. 1, and over here, a negative 2. So here are the first 5. This is what I'm looking for each of you to do. And be comfortable with naming these things, right? Be comfortable with these terms. Variable term, constant term, coefficient. We'll be using this all the time and heavily in 8th and 9th grade. All right, good job today. I'll see you tomorrow.